Hello, good evening. Happy Wednesday.
Hey Sachin, how are you?
Good.
Srinivas, right? I knew there's a lot of people here.
Hey,
Satosh. Awesome. Right, for those who are just joining for the first time at the office hours, feel free to put your questions in the chat, anything that you'd like to ask as well. Also, if any questions regarding the material that we talked about last week or anything getting deeper, please feel free to ask and we can get deeper in that material. So that's what the office hours for, to have those open conversations, and be able to answer your questions more thoroughly and understand a little bit more.
Lisa, I have a question. I know you mentioned that this is less of coding and more of business kind of interaction for this one or two series.
Yes.
But wondering if you have any plans to cover some hands-on with respect to LangGraph for agentic AI framework kind of capabilities.
Yeah, so LangGraph, I'll be covering it in sort of 103 because
One
that's
of
what
two.
gets
Okay.
the evolve, but those are different types of RAGs that you can sort of develop. I
Okay.
have an example how to do LangGraph that I'll be sharing with the team about, like a quick multimodal LangGraph from there. But
Okay.
there's different, right now LangGraph used to be the top in terms of using different things, but there have been a lot of changes since then. LangGraph was, I think, was most
Yeah.
popular 6 months ago. Now it's more, OpenAI has developed a new agentic tool that people are saying that now super easy, super fast, build super tools really easier that way, as well as Crew AI has been sort of taken over agentic and it's open source as well.
Yeah.
So Crew AI sort of been what's people most talking about now, and Linger have sort of been pushed to the side.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
hey, Luis, I have one question.
Yep.
So, things are actually changing. Every day there is news, and then things are changing. How AI is approaching, and what things like that, right? So, with that, the costs and the way the flows are designed are also changing. So, for example, DeepSeek came, and then it threw a methodology, and you with that, the cost structure is a little different, and the Google actually came out and with Gemma 3, and then it's saying that we need only one GPU, and then one NVIDIA GPU with something else. So will you cover all these things when you try to give the cost estimation, or will it be like based on the traditional?
That's a very good question. So yeah, we'll talk exactly about that in week 3. So not this week, we're talking about the following week, how to do cost estimation. So it's a very good question. What's all these different models? What does it mean? So there's different options that we're talking about as well. So you're talking about what hosting one graphics card versus other, right? So there's different ways to use an LLM. One is through APIs where you don't have to host anything. You don't have to get your own graphics card. You don't have to do anything. All you do is request from either through OpenAI, Google Cloud, GCP, or you grab it from wherever it is, and you just pay to access the API. So you don't have to worry about graphics card or anything. But now if you're hosting locally an LLM, that's where you would have to pay to get a you have to pay for a graphics card to host the model and the cost of doing that as well. So we'll talk about what's the cost of hosting it, the cost of using the APIs and things like that. So right now, what I'm seeing most businesses are doing is that in order for you to have a local LLM, you need to have good infrastructure. So you need to have something that's easy and scalable. So it's easy to say I can host an LLM. It's not easy to say I'm going to host an LLM and then have 600 people use it at the same time, right? Then you need to think about, oh, okay, well, it's not enough just about hosting it. How can I make it what's up with the load and balancing and the request and everything like that, right? So there's a lot more that goes to it, hosting your own local LLMs, in which a lot of people don't want to do. So they use cloud providers like Azure or AWS to do APIs and then just pull that information from them. But we'll definitely go into more detail sort of week 3.
Sure, thanks.
No worries. All right, so I know a question here from Anu. So those who are just joining, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat as they come along. So Anu asks, could you explain a little bit more about AI code reviewing tools? So right now there are a couple. So one that's very typical is GitHub Copilot. So if you have what's it called, Visual Studio Code on your computer, you can pay for subscription to GitHub Copilot, or you can get the free version in which you can put all your code in there and ask GitHub Copilot to help code with you at the same time, to look at your coding, etc. GitHub has now released their own free Copilot as well to help look and look at your code readability, looking at your code as well. These have sort of been pushed out. There's also new ones that have been released, like Cursor. Cursor is sort of the new Visual Studio Code that's been pushed out because it integrates really well with all your code, and it's supposed to have an agentic way of being able to write code as well as you code with them as well. So those are the top ones that right now they're being looked at. I think Cursor and Arrow, the top two IDEs right now. Of course, you have to pay a subscription for Cursor, and same thing with Arrow as well, because you have to pay to use LLMs, right? They'll give you probably like 20, 30 free, 33, I think 30 or 40 free API requests, and then then you think you get limited from there, or you have to switch different models, etc. So there's different AI coding reviews that, again, we'll talk about in this week's class that will really help you in terms of how can I use AI in my coding, and that sort of tools that way as well. Okay. We have a couple more people, so thank you for joining today. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If any questions you want me to get deeper in, pull things information in, and just please, you can, if no one's talking, you can ask a question and go from there.
Yeah, if no one has a question, I have a question, Lois. Do we have any AI tools for the front end? I'm working on a chatbot, and I did like a back end, it is working, but I'm using like a Streamlit to test it, but I don't know like what is a good any front end UI tools that I can use with limited effort. I can build a UI.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So what I would say, if you want to build a front end and you don't really have that much experience, I would say Cursor or GitHub Copilot would be good, in which you can sort of just create like a blank canvas and say, hey, I want to build, let's say, a Flask or a React, a front end. Can you help me build one out? And you'll see the code, build the code itself. You're able to use it, run it, and then be able to sort of debug it that way. The only thing part of it is that it's hard. It's going to be hard is that if you don't know much about React or know about that front end or use that, it's going to take a little bit more trial and error of saying what's going on with the error, what's finding out. But you can ask ChatGPT that can help you like decode the bug and have it up and running. But I would say it's this is a step above than using Flask Radio, because those are your typical fast apps you can pull up. If you want to build something more customizable, I would say right now people are using TypeScript and next TypeScript and Java right now in terms of front end developments, and React. So those are the top 3 front end developments if you're trying to build something out. So you can then, I said, if you have GitHub Copilot, use it. If you're using Cursor, use it. Those will, what's called vibe coding, what people are calling right now, which and the LM will then develop the applications for you and build you all the different packages you need for it. So definitely try it out. So you probably need like a weekend, probably like a Saturday when no one's bugging you. Install it, download all the packages, and just start trying to see if you can build a front end with it that way.
Yeah, I spent last weekend on back end, so I was struggling on front end. I left it there. Yeah.
Are you trying to just do a chatbot, or are you trying to?
Chatbot. So if nobody has questions, I can show it here. I can show it and get some feedback as well. So yeah.
Actually, maybe you can answer this later once you're done. I'm just wondering what is the issue with the Streamlit? I'm evaluating the same actually.
No, there is no issue with Streamlit. Streamlit is good, but it is for just for testing. But if you want to do a
Yeah.
good deployment front end, so Streamlit is not the one. That's
Yeah.
my understanding.
I see. I see.
Srinivas, let's make a deal. If we have 50 minutes, let's build it up.
Yeah, I'm not a front end guy. If some expert front end expert is there, like I can take their help and we
We
can
have
build
Copilot.
it.
We have Copilot.
No, it's not that easy. I used the Copilot help for like my backend, all my ideas, and I could get it working.
So
Yes.
you should use agent mode, not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
regular one.
Yeah. Let me show here. Manoj, can you turn on the share mode? Unless somebody has any question. Otherwise, I'll take 10 minutes to show it.
Yeah, it's ready.
Okay. And share. Okay. Now let me. This is my code. Let me start running and then. Okay, it started. It's better view in. Yeah, this is the one. Let me refresh. See, I'm building a chatbot for high school students. That's my idea. So it's already like I used actually like three books: pre-calculus, AP World History, and Physics, their textbooks, and I'm using the RAG. And let's go to the code. I'll show the code. So I have three-step process I followed. Why actually like, okay, so this is the first thing actually, ChromaDB. Where
Yep.
is this? Yeah, I'm using this is chatbot. Why is this not going away? Okay. Okay, I have a PDF to ChromaDB. I have this actually, like I have these three PDFs, and I did actually like this uh, script will convert into like the creates a ChromaDB, and you can see like it created the ChromaDB for two books. The physics book I don't have it, so but it created two books in the Chroma. Then actually like I have the second step. I have a RAG chartbot class I created. So it has two important things: generate quiz, answer question. Both I'm using in the top. If you see like a Gemini 1.5 Flash, I'm using because that is cheap. And also like with the free, I'm able to get actually like I can do like 10-15 runs before it complains. Um, then actually like it gets actually like the relevant text, relevant chunks it gets from the ChromaDB, and then actually passes that while where is it? Answer questions. If you see that it gets a relevant text and passes it and gets a response. Similarly, in the generate quiz also, I'm asking to send it in a specific JSON format so that the front end can actually iterate and display the whatever way we want. So here also I am passing the textbook context here. Then yeah, so in the I have like the finally the Streamlit. This is what actually like I should be able to replace for whichever the front end I want to use. Here actually like the same. I have the session state I need to create. That's the first learning I have. Otherwise, like when I do a click, everything is disappearing. So my again the initial it is getting initialized again the RAG chartbot and it is not storing. So that is something I learned it hard way. I have like again this is what displays the front end. Uh, then let's go here like the UI. Okay. Here actually, let me move this up. Okay. So here actually there are two things. I can ask, let's pre-calculus I selected. Uh, I can say explain algebra. So it should get like from the text, right? It's getting, let's ask like, if I ask like, who is USA, it should say like, see, because it's a RAG, because it's not there in the text, it is giving that. Let's say like I want to try questions on trigonometry. I want to generate quiz. So with Chroma, I see like it is fast. Initially, like without Chroma, I used VectorDB. I tried that. It was dead slow. So I can randomly, like, I'm just picking some answers. So then,
Srinivas, how are you validating the
ah,
correctness of the content that is given?
resource exhaustion, I got. So sorry, come again.
How are you validating the correctness of the content that is answering?
Oh yeah, I'm actually like, what I'm asking is give within the context of uh, what is that? Let me go here. Rags are part. So I'm asking like limit it into do not include the okay. I have put this here. If you see references to textbook pages using only the provided text contact only. So I added this like today when I'm testing like an hour before. When I selected like a different book and ask a math question, it is giving. The reason is like it is going beyond what the text I provided. Once I added actually like this one,
Okay.
it was actually limiting it. It's again like the testing. So that's another question that I have. Do we have
Yeah.
like any AI testing tools which auto generates the test cases based out of it? I don't know. I have written like my own
Because
test files. Yeah.
even if you tell that you just give me whatever is in your textbook, it still hallucinates and tries to give something outside the context, right?
Uh,
So
okay.
I just wanted to ask Louis also, like, are there any tools which can compare between two different texts and tell whether how accurate they are?
Yeah, so those are something we definitely talked about in Janai 101 about different these different KPIs and metrics you can have. So in order for this to work, and again, this isn't something new that Srinivas is making. So how can we evaluate something that he's sort of building a RAG? And this is what we're doing in GenAI 103. We'll talk about LLM evaluations. And LLM evaluations, you have to compare your textbook response with your you have to build a golden test set. So what this means is from your PDF that you have extracted your physics or calculus, you need to have specific topics that you should be able to that you should know that's coming directly from the textbook and should be able to answer. Now, when you have your LLM respond and look at it, you can use LLM as a judge to say, hey, this is what your RAG response was. Here's what the expected response was. Was it accurate? Was the context right? What's the recall, etc. So in order for it to be tested, you need to build this evaluation sheet to see how well your model is doing. And once you have built your evaluation sheet to see how well your model is doing, you can then try different models. If you do Gemini 1.5 Pro and see that you're actually getting better responses simply because right now 2.1.5 Flash is good at summarizing, but for terms of mathematical, that's where you have to sort of go to the Pro to get better responses. But he won't know that until he'll have to go through the evaluations part now is how can I build an evaluation sheet to see how well my RAG is doing and if it's really hallucinating and how is it hallucinating. So this is where the next step of Srinivas' journey would be is he sort of built it out, he tested it, he developed this POC, looks like it's going good, looks like it's going well from there. But how can he make it how can he take it to the next level? So there's a couple of things I'm just giving him to try right now. There's a new embedding model just came out from Gemini called Gemini Embedding XP0307. It's supposed to be really, really well. So choosing a really good embedding model is really important to get better RAG. So I'll put that in the chat. That's the name of the new embedding model rather than the small m or text embedding 004, particularly using Gemini. And like I think Manoj was right in the sense that try to use Gemini 2.0 Flash. Gemini 2.0 Flash has gotten better and has higher limits as well, and you'll see definitely an increase in terms of the answer scores that you're getting from it. So let me just pull up AI Studio. So let me just see what kind of models right now are available. Right now, for those who are interested in learning a bit more about the models, what's interesting is that they made this new this really big topic called image generation model. I'm not sure if you guys seen those ones. So this is a new one. It's completely free for everyone right now. They're not putting any pricing, any tokens, and you can use up to 128,000. And now you can generate, edit image any way you want. So that means you can put an image of a croissant and say put a coffee beside it, and you actually can see them like, putting a coffee beside it as well. So that's really, really cool on that side. But yeah, Gemini 2.0 Flash has a lot of potential. So you would use this as try to use 2.0 Flash because I think it's really, really fast. 2.0 Flash Lite is also the second part of it to do it as well. I think there's 15,000 requests a day, 1,500 requests. Has higher limits than 2.0 Flash. So there's 30 requests per minute, and this one is only 15 requests per minute. So when we'll talk about not this week, the next week, you can see here that there's price points, right? Someone had questions about the pricing. What does it mean? Right now, Google is the only one that's giving out really cheap prices. Like it's really great. Example, the 2.4 Pro. It's really smart, but unfortunately, you can see here it says it's free 2 requests per minute only. So if you ask 2 questions at the same time, you're going to get what you saw Srinivas like exhausted of resources, right? But it's the one's really, really smart. This one is your thinking model, which is going to use a little bit more. This one has 10 requests per minute, but again, right now it's also free. But this one is probably would be the best for Srinivas to use in terms of because it's developing a quiz. It should reason over complex problems, should reason and tackle difficult code and math problems, right? So with Flash thinking something more that's sort of more his side as well. 1.4 Pro. So maybe this is why using 1.4 Flash or 1.5 Pro Flash is 15 requests per minute. So as you can see here, student investment, maybe that's what you're going to
Yeah.
see. 5 is 15 requests. Meanwhile, 2.0 is about 15. No, Flashlight's 30. So let's
Okay.
say you can use this one. This would probably give you the best way, and you can process 10,000 lines of code or books that way as well. So that's just quickly looking at which models to use. So another example that you would use to do this which would be called RAG evaluations. There's a couple. There's one called Raga. So let me pull up Ragas. So it's really simple. You can tell Copilot as well to do this as well, but Ragas is like a library that helps you really look at analyzing your evaluation runs. So let's me zoom in here. So it lets you look at how accurate it is. Is it factual? Is it correctness? What it isn't? This is where you would need to go look at your questions, responses, how well it's been doing, and sort of create your own evaluation sheet afterwards. And then you'd be saying, hey, in my evaluation sheet, I'm getting really low responses, only getting like 60% rate. Then maybe switch to a smarter model, lower your temperature in your models, etc in order to make it more better that way. If you're still getting something's really off and you're like, hey, I'm still not getting the right responses, then you need to go back to your chunking strategy. How are you putting your textbook into your DB? Is it missing something from there? So you have to go and do like process eliminations till you get what's good for your model. But what I can see from Srinivas is a really great progress. I think he's moving from he's ideating quickly from if he did it all in one Saturday, it's really impressive, right? So grabbing 2 textbooks, be able to create quizzes, RAGs, and everything like that. So that's really awesome. But yeah, the RAGs is a really good one to do that as well. Another one I like to use is MLflow. MLflow RAG evaluations. We'll talk about this more on 103 for those who are going to be deeper into coding. But it'll just like how we saw in Ragas, it's really, this is open source. Um, it will tell you how to create that same tracing. How can you click at a trace, see how well it's responded? Is it accurate? Is it not accurate? Um, what are the different metrics you can use, etc. So this is what you go down once you start building up productionalized Gen AI products is can you evaluate something? How can you know it's not hallucinating? And this is really where you have to build out your own evaluations, and then this is where you have to sell your business in the sense that how do you know it's going to be productive or how it's going to happen in the future? You do the evals, and that's the most important part of the RAG scenarios. Hopefully, this gives a little more info to
Yeah,
start.
Luis, one question like, so what is the difference between MLflow and Raga?
So those are just different. It's like using LangChain or like it's using different types of tools to do evaluation. So you can use one or you can use the other. It really depends what you feel comfortable with and whatever you want to use. Raga seems really simple. You can just throw it in there and get top evaluations. You can also get, so yeah, there's different ways, and I can keep getting down there, but but I would say Srinivas, it looks good. The next step, if you really want to take it to a really good front end, is two ways. The fastest way is Flask. Tell it to build it out, change everything, to stream that to a Flask app. This will use HTML, and then you can make it more interactive. Or two, if you really want to go down the productionalized, is using React. And I'm 100% for people using React, although it's very cumbersome, but with LLMs will help you get it out there. But there's definitely a learning curve because you need to install the right packages, everything like that to get into there. But definitely in a good spot.
Thank you.
So, is it a lot easier if we use agents? I know agents are not free. Usually they are like platform services. Is there any way we can use agents for free, like any like Cohere or other agents like for free? Like I see using agents are a lot fast forward kickstarting the process because it's taking a lot of manual efforts to build a RAG system, right? Like you can connect your existing DB or simply copy your PDFs to the object store and like simple injection job is generating all the RAG. So uh, is this manual process still um, make useful if we are doing it DIY applications, or will the agent replace it?
That's a very good question. So let's go down, and you asked a couple of questions from there. So let's go and ask. I'm trying to pull up an arena score. Let's see. Coding. And I just want to bring up an example of this. Let's see, go into Chatbot Arena leaderboard. Okay, so I'll share my screen. So before I answer your question, you have to understand what each LLM is really good for, what it's not. This is on Hugging Face. I call this a Chatbot Arena leaderboard. I'll put this into the Zoom for those who want to look at this later. But this is sort of a quick way of seeing people who are actually using LLM models and how they're finding it, how well it's doing, and versus different categories. So as you can see here, there's math, instruction following, multi-turn creative writing, coding, hard prompts. So let's click on coding. So right now they're saying that Grok 3 preview is doing really good in the arena score. So how the arena score is done is that instead of having a test that the LLM is doing, people look at the arena and see 3 responses from 3 different LLMs, and they choose actually what's the best response in terms of that. And then it's humans deciding, and they don't know which model's behind what. And then all those scores get accumulated and becomes this LLM arena. Now you can see here that Grok 3 is sort of the top model right now in terms of what's being done on the score. The next one is GPT 4.5. But here's a good example. Okay, let's look at Grok 3 preview 0, 2, 2 to 4. They're saying that's the best coding model. So what is current benchmarks for Grok 3 preview? Okay, Grok 3 is divided to the 50%, 70% QA, and 55% love coding bench. Okay, so this is where I want to help you challenge your mindset of, is this really all I need? So right now, the smartest LLM right now that people are voting for is still only getting 57% on the live coding bench. So what does that mean? The live coding bench is a bunch of leak code, is a bunch of creative coding, a bunch of hard problems to sort of develop. And it's only really getting past the 50% mark. Now, if you grab this Grok model and you put it inside your web coding, and you say, hey, make me a RAG. It's going to make you a RAG that's 60% usable. It's going to give you something that's going to make up your structure, open up your Pinecone, or open up your vector database, store it in. But it's going to have a lot of errors and have a lot of issues. So if you know that there's a lot of issues happening, there's a lot of things that are wrong, what's an agent? And aren't agents supposed to solve that issue? So the difference between an LLM and an agent is that an LLM is only text. So me messaging an LLM right now back and forth on my AI Studio. Let's see, going back to my, where do I have my AI Studio here? AI Studio. Me responding saying, what's the best LLM for coding? Right now, it's gonna answer my question, right? So an LLM, we'll talk about this week, this Saturday. So it's really good that we're talking about this now, is that an LLM, this is simply chat response. So it's not doing anything in terms of being an agent. So why would people think that agents are different? An agent, it can be changed to this. And again, what I'll be doing an example is this. But one, before you answer, I want you to reflect on the response. You are agent one. 2, once you received your response, I want you to formalize and double check agent one's response. 3, and pass to agent 3. Agent 3 will formalize, make it in Markdown, and give final answer. So what I'm doing is creating a very simple 3 agents directly in Google iStudio, and you'll be surprised what an agent really is. It's just one LLM given a task to do. And then if you give that agent if now you give that LLM a tool and saying, okay, you have access to do internets, or do you have access to do the image, then you can sort of now integrate this with the whole other being. But if I say again, what is the best LLM for coding? Please show all thoughts. Each agent's thoughts. And I run this. So right now it's gonna act like the first agent. So it's doing this one. Now, what is agent 2 response? What is agent 3's response? Okay, so instead of having this huge breakdown and give me all this information, um, I sort of made an agent that first reflects on the response. The second response will formalize everything and double check the response is correct. And then the third agent is to sort of make this into mark this to markdown. So what this means is I'm just using the same LLM, but asking and prompting it differently each time to do a different task. So when people say, hey, but using agents are better, it is and it isn't in the same time. It's in the sense that you can have an agent will always be better than LLM simply just asking it one piece because an LLM will always just regurgitate to you the first response, right? With an agent, you can break it down to different tasks. You can ask it to reflect. You can ask it to formalize before giving a final answer. And therefore, it could give you a better answer at the end. But going back to what we saw and that question about what is Grok, what is the best LLM out there, especially in terms of coding, we're seeing that Grok 3 is sort of winning and it's only 50% hitting that benchmark. That should really stop you and reflect like, hey, yes, I can do coding with agents and I can get coding with my Visual Studio Code. But if I don't double check its work, if I'm not on top of it, this could give really variations. In my example, I said that I tried GitHub Copilot and I enabled the agent. I'm probably on a work I did that 2 months ago to see how well it is, and it was doing awesome. I was coding with it. Everything was working. And then when I ran to Streamlit, it said failed. I was like, what? How did it fail? So I go back and I'm double checking everything that it's changing. And I noticed that I clicked accept and a change. And which it did was it was editing a large code text. I probably had maybe 2,000 lines of code in this one Python file. And then it edited the first half, and then the second half it wrote, please continue code here, dot, 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 and erased everything that I had in the bottom half of that code. So then I had to go back to my history, recopy all my code, paste it back in there. But if people who didn't know that you can go back and grab their history or didn't know that different things like that, a lot of people will see that it's a lot of the agents are still erasing code that's unnecessary or editing code that works, and there's editing it unnecessarily as well. So there are still some kinks and there are some issues with agents that are coding, so it's not perfect yet. But going back to it, it will, I think right now, will help you at least 60% double your efforts if you know what you're doing. Or for those who don't know what they're doing, it gives you a really good head start of developing something that really helps you out. But the agents aren't really end alls right now, simply because LLMs are right now are still not smart enough to be sort of left alone. So going back to last week's Saturday's lesson, we're still at the part where each LLM output still will need human in the loop review before being released, simply because right now, as we were saying before, there are still hallucinations that still happen, things get changed, the event import that never exists, or they're so confident that this loop should work, and then this loop doesn't work at all. So there's a couple things to watch out for, but hopefully that gives you a good explanation of why agents aren't still 100% should be there and where we are in terms of the current landscape of it.
Hey, Luis, in your this Satya, so in your case, right, was it because of the context window being too large? Is that the reason that like the LLM gave you back the response, half of it because it maxed out on the tokens, or what is the
Yes, yeah, exactly. So there's two things I noticed. One is depends the LLM I'm using. So I'm using Claude Sonnet. Claude is a really strong coding one. I use it a lot. And context window is only 128,000 tokens.
right?
But I probably have my testing code in there. I have my utils files. I have all these different other codes in there that have hundreds and hundreds of lines of code as well, right? And you're giving all your code database to these LMs in which they can
Correct.
only read up to a certain amount of code. Gemini 2.0 Pro, which is really good, has really high context windows. So I see when I switch it to Gemini, it gives me really good readability. But in terms of coding, it's not the strongest coder out there. So it does. So if I tell Gemini to, hey, make me a README file of all my code base, I know it's going to read everything I have there and it's going to give me a really great summary in my README. But if it comes to an issue, I'm running code and it's like, oop, got an error. Gemini 2.0 will keep looping me in the error and won't give me a result. So I had to switch to another model and say, only focus on this code to really help get that
Part
response.
of the code, right?
Yeah, it's like that you have to give it, it's all iterations, trying to, like I said before, shifting your paradigm of how you used to code, right? You have to you
Right.
really change the way how you work for work with LLMs and get it working that way. But hopefully that gives you a good explanation and
Luis, I think actually, so for the agents, right, I had a different understanding. That's why, I mean, my question was a little bit different, but the whatever you were explaining was also interesting to me. That's why I didn't interrupt it. The actual question, I was looking at like the platform services, the Bedrock, AWS Bedrock. I think it's my I'm not having some understanding. That's why I'm not connecting the dots. So the agent you're explaining and the Bedrock, like say, platform services like Bedrock, which is obviously you can select whatever the LLM you want, right? So um, so I'm just talking about the platform services. Is it worth going for the platform services versus deploying your own LLM and um, uh, and building your RAG with that?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So I think it goes back to build versus buy, right? And it really depends on, well, first of all, where you're hosting your LLM. So if you're hosting your LLM, if you're using LLM, where do you want it to be? So if you have it locally, if you're the only person who's going to use the LLM, or like a team of 5 people are going to use the LLM, then it makes sense to host it locally and run it locally. But for you to run an LLM, I want to show you how big it is. So if I go to Hugging Face and I put Llama 3, I think 3.3, let's go 70B. I go through here and I say, hey, I want to use this model and I want to download it and use it myself. How much gig of RAM do I need to have? So you can see here that this model is sharded from 5 gigs and over to 30 different files, 5 gigs, right? So 5 times 3, you need at least now 150 gigs of just pure software RAM just to hold the model. Then you'll need another 150 gigs to unload the model, and you need 150 gigs on top of that to run proper inference, to make it actually fast enough for you people can ask questions. So you're already up to 450 gigs of RAM on T2, probably two T200 cards that only have 150 gigs of RAM each 100 cards, sorry, to host and run this Llama model. So what's the cost of H100 cards? They're $3,000 each. The cost of hosting it and running inference, the cost of the compute, all that information, then you have to say, okay, is it really viable for me to spend all that money to locally host on this LLM? Or can I use AWS who are already hosting it and they're only charging me 20 cents to interact with this model per token that I give out, right? So this is why AWS and Azure are delivering these services. They're hosting these models for you on their huge storage-based graphic cards, and they're giving you these APIs because for businesses to host and run these models and say, okay, I want to use this for 10 people answering it, sometimes it doesn't make sense or sometimes it doesn't make sense in terms of what's being done. Now, a lot of companies are worried about security. How secure is my data? And this is why you need to have those service level agreements with AWS or with Azure or with OpenAI or whoever you're working with to ensure that your data doesn't leave that space or being trained on. So the number one point is how important is your data, how secure it is, If you don't trust AWS, you still don't trust Azure, then you're only left to do something local. But if you're doing something local, you can see you need to spend a lot of money to get something that's good and that's fast and be able to run for at least a team of 10 people of using just one simple Llama 3.3 instruct. Now you can only download open source models like Grok and Llama, but you wouldn't be able to download the Gemini models. You wouldn't be able to download any of the GPT-4 models yourself. You would still need to go through OpenAI or through Azure in order to access those models yourself. So there's
Yeah.
that's the first question. The second question, I'll put this article in here. I think it's building your own rags. I'll just read this one, I think put it in here. And this is the buy versus build decision. Dear IT problem, start trying to build your own rags in the sense that if you don't have the resources, you don't have the right people who know about AI or AI engineering, and these people are saying, okay, I'm going to build this project up. Seems pretty simple, seems pretty easy. This article will explain a little bit more about the actual real cost of trying to develop something that many people no one talks about. What are the example, even personnel cost of having a team of 4 people work on it for 5 months? What's that really costing the business if someone really doesn't have that AI experience to guide them, right? So this is a good question. So if you don't have that team, you don't have those professionals that know how to build custom products, then it makes sense to go to AWS and saying, hey, what do you guys have for RAGs? Or hey, what do you have for agents? I want to build something that's in production pretty fast, and I don't have the team experience to build it. This is when you would access AWS's simple software, or you go to Microsoft or Azure's software and you say, I want to build an agent on your system. So this is what, etc. there. So that's what probably trying to answer those 2 different questions you had.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And one last question. So I was just trying to understand the agent you mentioned in your prompt to virtually asking it as a become an agent, right? Give it a different agent, and it's virtually creating creating 3 characters to give one after one, right? So is that agent is same as a agent that we try to we procure in the as a AWS Bedrock or Azure's GPT agents? Is that same concept is used from LLMs, or that's just a name but not related?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this more on this Saturday as well, but agents are there's many names to agents, and they all mean the same, but as my boss used to say, is like if you squint hard enough at any AI project, it looks like it's an agent project. Example, RAGs could be considered agents because it's retrieving information, right? We're looking at, instead of the LM just answering, you're asking an LM to retrieve information and bring it back. So therefore, a RAG is really an agent because it's going and acting on something and retrieving something. Also, agents could be tools. You can have an LM go to the internet and pull information out. Then it's become a tool. It sounds like a internet AI agent, right? Or you can have different types of agents in the sense that you can use different LLMs, train them on different knowledge base, and have information pass through each one to do a different task, right? So it's all about how advanced you want to build it, how much information you want to build it. But yeah, that's pretty much agents are. Agents are just LLMs given with different instructions each time and different tools to given each time to work on.
Hey, Luis, I have an quick question on. Actually, like, I just want to run it by one quick thing with you, which is, using the scenario that we have is in, like, we use BigQuery as a data lake plus ML-ish as a whole ML suite, right? So the thing is, like, we know the data model really very well. The problem is, we have democratized the data as well, along with the schema and everything. So we were thinking, like, if it makes sense to build a RAG to give all the context that's required. I don't know, like not the yeah, context in terms of the metadata, right? Like the complete details about the tables, and then like their relations and all of that stuff. And then people ask simple questions, and then you should be able to build the queries that they can analytical queries that they can execute and then fetch the data off of. Actually, I've seen some I was seeing some videos. Actually, is it so now in like in this particular scenario, right? How do you break up the thing into, is there anything that goes into embeddings or anything that, I understand like rags will come at the last, correct? And like what parts will go where in this particular scenario?
That's a very good question, and that's something that I see most businesses are trying to answer.
Uh-huh.
I'm really a big fan of Databricks, and simply because they do everything that you're asking for right now. So if you have empty tags or you don't have what kind of string kind of values, whatever it is, do you actually use AI to fill in those gaps of what's the format, what's the title, what's etc., what's the metadata attached to this?
Mhm.
And then you can have something called Talk to Your Data, which is one of their dashboards in which they can actually pull in any database that you have and ask questions on it and be able to and be able to respond. And what it does is on the back end, it's a text to SQL engine.
Right.
So you can ask a question and then it'll convert everything your questions to
Mhm.
a SQL code, and that SQL code will then run on your data set so it can pull information to the users to ask questions about who was the top performer of 2024 Q1, right? So they'll rate a SQL code in the back end, pull information up, or like what are the top relationships between these three data sets? We'll go to
Right.
your to pull those information in, etc. So these are things that do require more time, as you can see that if Databricks is pushing a product that's sort of that they sort of
Emulates that whole thing.
designed and created, right? You can definitely
Right.
try to see how you can look at it yourself and build it. If you're very interested into it and how you can sort of do something similar, I would say look up Talk to Your Data,
Oh,
Databricks.
okay. Uh-huh.
See how see what they sort of what they're talking about in terms of being able to ask
Mhm.
questions
Okay.
and be able to look at what they're having, because of course this is something that I think this is talk to Genie, explain your business idea. Yeah, so you can pull in your data set, what's a pipeline, what's the biggest opportunities, explain the data sets, and then realize like how you can sort of create your own Genie space, or how can you connect your database into maybe a Streamlit app that you're creating, and then have a text to SQL front end so people can ask questions and say, hey, what are the top relationships between these three data sets?
Mhm.
You can then create a text to SQL code in the background. Could be through Gemini and say, please convert everything to text to SQL. Here's example of some SQL
Right,
runs,
right. Uh-huh.
and then you'd be able to run and be able to pull information like that yourself. So this is definitely to spark your idea. And for
Right.
those, I know Databricks is really expensive, so you could definitely
No,
steal
actually,
it.
we have. Oh, sure. You're talking about the Databricks, right? Okay, okay. Uh-huh. So the
Yeah.
thing is, I tried using Gemini to build that actually, giving the context and then try to see, like if it can. I mean, the thing is, I can play really very well with the data, right? And like I was giving only parts of it to see like if it can give me an very close SQL kind of a thing, it just works fine. But then I'll have to, since I'm not giving the complete context, I have to modify that a little bit to suit my requirement kind of a thing. But it does a great job actually, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll probably ping you offline. Like the I'll just send you that video that I was watching, right? They say RAG for SQL queries kind of a thing. I did not understand what is the purpose of a RAG here, right? Because your model is giving everything. So where do you really give the? I presume that like the RAG will have all the metadata and the relationships about your tables and schema and everything. Is that where you place all your RAG information?
Yeah, like I don't know if that's really the best way of doing it. Like for me, I would have probably like what we're talking before, having an agent, and one
Mhm.
agent that understands
Mhm.
the concept of all your
Okay,
database.
sure.
Maybe you can
Okay,
have like a README file that
sure,
says
sure.
this data set has all this information. Here's the columns, here's the data sets.
Uh-huh.
And then you can have another agent that writes a text to SQL. So you can say, grab the information from the text to SQL, whatever it is you're pulling from, pass it to your second agent
Mhm.
to give it the context, and then get the final answer out that way. So I don't think a RAG wouldn't be as useful, but maybe having that agent flow
Mhm.
would be the best way.
Okay.
So there's different ways. Of course, I know this is a little bit more technical than the normal business class, but and everyone's sort of tuning in. But this is what when we talk about this week, we'll talk about the Saturday, is what are the different tools available for the business users? How can we use them to increase productivity? And I'll definitely go through what are different agents and what are the different use cases in today and Saturday's class for those who are being a little bit confused from today's conversation. But I'll go deeper down to the basics and try to catch everyone up. Was there anyone having questions from Saturday's class? Everyone liked it? Any? Yeah, no, I think that's good. Okay. All right. So we only have 3 minutes left. So I know this Saturday we have class. So just a reminder, we'll be starting off this class right into groups. We'll be looking at how to develop solutions for a case study. So we'll be breaking up probably groups of 5 to 8 individuals, depending how many people show up right in the morning. And then go over different scenarios and how would we develop strategies to overcome them, especially around using Gen AI in business. Then we're going to go straight into our second understanding the Gen AI landscape and go from there. So let me just pull up. Let's see here. Someone just asked me if I was able to help with LangGraph model. So let me see if I can just pull something up. Go back to Google Colab.
Hey, thanks, Luis.
No worries, guys. If you want to drop off, go ahead. I'm just gonna pull up this this LangGraph title for Shashin here. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you, Luis.
Must be very late for you, Louis, right?
Yes, I'm just trying to pull up where I don't have it right on me right now, but I'm trying to see if I can see. It's gonna be 5 minutes so I can find it.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah.
Oh, the person removed their Llama index. Let's see, Llama index.
So this is a public repository that you're mentioning, or?
Yeah, this person
Oh,
just seems to remove this one key glance. Let's see here.
I thought it was your repo.
No, I haven't
Okay.
got it yet. Or yeah, it's on the side. Okay, we can use mine for now. I think there's so much. People have now changed to multi-agents. This is why it's harder to find LangGraph now.
And things are changing so rapidly in LangGraph, like every day, every new version. The usage, the syntax is not consistent.
Yeah, so yeah, this one, the updated information, plus, and one thing you'll notice when you're using LangGraph too is that it's not going to use the same whatever imports, you might not get this imports. So this one, I think this one here is, I think they changed, they removed it from their GitHub, but they left it on their tutorial site.
Okay.
But there's still papers are here, but this one uses this is what I had before of retrieve documents, create documents, generate answer yes or no. This one uses GPT-4All for embeddings, LLM, Langsmith, vector stores, test search, retrieval grader, and chain of thought, hallucination grader, web search tool uses Tavily.
Yeah.
You can build and then he talks about how to build your graph from here. And do the web search if not, and go back, and then control the flow, and then yeah, perfect. So then it goes through retrieve, grade documents, web search not useful, generate. So what really a LangGraph is, you pretty much create workflow nodes, similar as agents. So this is why LangGraph is sort of being put to the side right now. Because you're having what LangGraph does, it creates these nodes, or
Right.
you can consider agents. The one does web search, another one retrieves the document, another one grades the document, another one generates the document. So if you go here, you can check of how and you give it instructions what you want to do and how you want to do it. So this is very typical of an AI agent. Instead of putting it to workflow nodes, you create one agent for grading, one agent for retrieving, one agent for generating documents.
Mm.
So this is sort of what the difference is. But yeah, this is something, yeah. This is something I saw. This is such a beautiful piece of code. Thanks for bringing it. So I'll put the code in here. You can check if it's on the GitHub site. You completely just click on their GitHub repo. But this is what I used as sort of a framework for LangGraph. Let's see if it's on there. Examples. Yeah, before I used to be on here. LM compiler. Root multi-agent. Yeah, it's all about multi-agent, agent
Collaborative.
supervisor.
Okay.
So they have this agent.
Oh, it's moved. Oh, it's just moved. Okay, to a different repository.
Yeah, so now it's about this type of information. So I'll put this one in here as well.
Sure.
You know. So instead of using LangGraph, people are using now the multi-agent supervisors. You can use LLM to orchestrate, in which you have a user, you have an LLM supervisor that says, okay, so example one could be checking an information. Agent 2 could be checking a SQL database. Agent 3, check the internet. So the supervisor will come and say, what's the user's question? I want to find out about this. Okay, let's send it to the internet because I don't have that information in my RAG, right? One of these could be RAG. The other one can be like this. So they'll send it to agent 3 information, get the information out, route it back to supervisor, get to the user. So this is just simply another way of doing it. And you can
So
sort of,
if that is the case, then what is the role of tools, Lois?
so the tools are what the agent will use to get to the internet.
So would you say agent is just a way of prompt?
Yeah, so
Assigning multiple prompts to different agents?
Yeah, so example, agent 3 would have one prompt of you are to go to the internet, extract everything through JSON tables. So it would be a specific prompt only for that LLM. Like you would make your own LLM prompt just for that one. And then agent 2 would have its own separate instructions and say you have access to a vector database. Your job is to RAG and pull and retrieve information from the tool base of your vector store and bring it back. And
My point is why do we need that extra layer of agent, and why can't we just have like supervisor routed to the different tools?
So the tools itself, you can. So you can have one like that way. I think this one's called the agent supervisor. I think this is, let me look here.
Even when you configure the tools, there's a way to set a prompt for each tool saying that, hey, this tool is designed to do this.
Yeah, you can have just a supervisor, or we call it an orchestrator. And you
Yeah.
can have different tools to say, hey, if you get something, send it to this tool. Hey, if you get to that, send it to that tool. But people like agents because they can read the tool and they sort of give it more instructions because there's a context limit. You can sort of fine tune like an LLM for one specific task. For example, if this one's a text to SQL agent. Rather than fine tuning the whole orchestrator to be a text to SQL agent, you would just fine tune the smaller model, and the smaller model would put information in. So another way people do this too is because they want to save money on their inference. So they would have, let's say, Gemini 2.5, 2.0 Pro as his main supervisor because it's really smart and be able to put information. And then here you would have smaller agents like Gemma the smaller model from Google that can pull information in at half the price of 1.5 Pro, right? That you don't need all that power horse to do it, but there's different ways people want to use this, right? So it's interesting because you can see here LangGraph pre-built create React agent. So even LangGraph has turned into that React agent that we talked about. So
Yeah.
so yeah, there's different ways why you would do it versus not. But again, if you have tools, I would say go for it and forget the other agents because this would save you the LLM calls for sure.
Okay. I mean, in my case, I'm going to use only one LLM. I don't have a choice to pick what LLM I'm going to use. So I'm going to be using a company approved LLM.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you have to do sometimes. But most people who want to build and develop out, right, they go crazy and
Yeah.
and I think there's different ones too. For example, there's the here we go. Here's the adaptive RAG one, but here's the LangGraph one. So I'll send you that one in here that has the LangGraph RAG. They moved the repos to here, so
Okay.
cool. All right, awesome. Everyone, we're 10 minutes past the time, and I hope to see you guys Saturday.
Thank you, Luis.
Yeah,
See you
no
Saturday.
problem. See you Saturday, everyone.
Hey, thanks, Louis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, everyone.